Hello, Judhajeet.
Hi,
How are you
hi.
doing?
How are you?
Yeah,
I'm doing very good. How are you?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So typical MBA style, right? Sitting at midnight, 12:30,
Yeah, it's 12:40 actually, but
12:40. Yeah, okay, okay.
right.
Okay, so I'll just ask you to introduce yourself a little bit, just like where you are doing your MBA from, how it has been. So if you could just enlighten our audience.
Right. So I'm Judhajeet Biswas. I'm currently in my final year MBA at IMT Ghaziabad. So I'm majoring in marketing with a minor in strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship.
Okay, all right. So since you have seen how it is, like before you were preparing, while you're preparing for the MBA, you had maybe some idea of how the MBA life is. So since now you have seen what MBA is, maybe you have got some idea of how the post MBA scenario would also be, right?
Right.
So could you let's start with that question. So how or was the MBA or is the MBA worth it? Like is it like so much of amount money that's spent there, lakhs of rupees there, the hype that is there in for the MBA. So do you think it's worth?
Right. So in a nutshell, yes, but going deep into it.
Yeah.
So in a manner of speaking, I have sort of experienced MBA and not that much post MBA, but some idea about it. So if we break it down to two basic frontiers, primarily on a very personal level, you invest your time and energy. And then obviously there is the secondary, which is the financial aspect. So when you're investing your time and energy for 2 years, then there are obviously massive learnings from the program. There's always a deep personal improvement and maturity that comes from the program. And you're leapfrogged into your career, literally. So there are many roles which we can obviously delve into later, which are only MBA specific. And the demand for such specific skills, let's say in finance, in HR, in marketing, operations, supply chain, even data, for example, that niche demand is increasing day by day. So the ROI of MBA, even if it is not instantaneously good, in the long run or in the longer run, it is always beneficial.
Okay. So how has this MBA helped you chart your career path? So what are the things that you have suddenly realized that which you were not aware of maybe before you started on your journey? So if you could
Right.
help, yeah, help us with that.
Right. So before joining my MBA, had some prior work experience in healthcare and events.
Okay.
So I had some idea what I wanted to do with my career, but MBA sort of completely changed it. Primarily, some parts of the course curriculum was already known to me because I was already working in marketing.
Right.
But from a very different perspective. So dozens of case studies and endless PPTs later, also a whole SIP experience later, my inclination from marketing has changed more towards strategy, and hence I took up the minor in strategy.
Okay.
And sort of I've been able to balance my engineering degree, sort of do some justice to it, while also balancing my passion towards MBA, passion towards marketing. And I've carved out the niche of, I'm actually trying to carve out the niche for myself in digital transformation. So that
Okay.
is the sort of pivoting that MBA was for me. Sort of opened my eye into the fact that if you're talking about digital transformation, we are in the 2008 to 2010 era of data science currently in the digital, if I draw parallels in the digital transformation field.
Okay.
As a role, this was not even there 5 years ago, but
Right.
within the next 2 years, we are having dedicated departments and dedicated CXOs for digital transformation. So that is sort of the niche that anyway MBA exposes you to, and that's something I fell for.
Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful answer. Okay. So just wanted to discuss this in a little more detail. So how is the life in a B school? So for us who have not done an MBA, it is more like, okay, there is a black box kind of a thing. A graduate goes inside, and suddenly after 2 years, there's an entire transformation in the like these, I mean, ideas, the mannerisms, the roles, whatever, everything changes suddenly. So what is it all about? So is it all about? Obviously, it's not. It cannot be theory everywhere. So, but was studies the major part of it? Did you ever have fun in it also, or can someone who is not so inclined in like studies can also do an MBA? What do you think?
Right. So life in a B school is entirely different from life in any other program. be it medical sciences, be it law, be it engineering from personal experience, be it any other master's program, be it a PhD program. Life in a B school is completely different. So as we were just talking about this, like I'm just coming from a basketball tournament that's going on campus. It's 12:40 and seven
Yeah.
matches are left. We have 10 matches scheduled. We began
Okay.
after India won, three got done, seven are left. So that is the sort of life you get in a B school. So there's this tag, at least for IMT, I can say it, that IMT never sleeps. But the
Okay.
truth is that, yeah, the truth is that no B school student ever sleeps in 2 years. So be prepared to sleep at 4, wake up at 6, and be in your class ready with full presentation and case studies by 8. So it's extremely fast paced. It's one of a kind adventure which really cannot be explained to someone who is out of this world. So you
Yeah.
have to experience it to know it. Secondly, so I'd like to break it down into very different aspects which are interlinked and together they play a cohesive role. So from my personal experience, primarily education is one of the main reasons why you join a B school. And in education sector, you look at the different academic curriculum that you have. No B school generally in the top B schools of the country doesn't really have a dedicated marketing or dedicated HR program. Even if it is dedicated, you are not just learning HR, you're learning finance as well. You're learning
Okay.
marketing as well. You're learning
Yeah.
operations as well. So when you are working, let's say in HR, you understand how the finance department operates. You understand
Exactly.
what deliverables the marketing guy has. Or if you're in marketing, you understand to read your cash flow statement. You read the balance statement and understand, analyze where your company stands.
Broaden your horizons, right? Kind of.
Absolutely, absolutely. So no vertical can stand on its own, right?
Obviously.
All you need all 4 5 to run the business. So for any top B school, like be it the Blackies, be it the SPJ and MDI, XLRI, be it IMT, IMI, every batch is very diverse. So you'll have work ex people there, people with 3 years work ex, people with 2 years work ex. You'll have freshers there. You'll have a lot of engineers there, which is true for India. Anywhere you go, you'll always get engineers. You'll have people from finance, commerce, BBA backgrounds, and that sort of expands your horizon within the class. So academics is not just course, it's also your peers. So
Right.
I understand a
Right.
lot. So there is, I'll like to cite this one example. So in my supply chain classes, there's this classmate, there's this friend we have. He has worked in Adani ports. So he comes with a 3 year experience in shipping industry. So
Okay.
he's the one who took over the classes when the multimodal supply chain came into being, the multimodal transit hubs.
Right.
So
Right.
the teacher actually gave him the full stage and he taught us far better than the academic professor could. So that sort of learning you look at. So next comes the clubs and committees. So for the freshers or even for the ones who have WorkX, we don't really have WorkX with teamwork. Mostly the kind of experience that people have. It's okay, you are responsible for this little thing, you do it, your work is done. You're responsible for this 1 2% of the project, your work is done. But in clubs and committees, what happens is you have to collaborate with everyone. Most of the times,
Right.
even if your idea is the best, even if you know that you can do the job better than everyone, it is not a team decision. So a team dynamics sort of gets inculcated within you. And
Exactly.
yes, and there are 4 to 5 committees which is like sacrosanct, which have to exist for each and every B school to operate. The placement committee being one of them, student council,
Yeah.
academic committee, cultural committee, alumni committee, entrepreneurship. These will exist, and I mean, people in the committees have a very different life compared to people outside the committees, although you're in the same place, same time. Then comes the case competitions. Case competitions teach you that whatever you learn in academics, whatever you learn in a club committee, that is not enough. Practically, it's something completely different. So, for example, a few days back, Samsung's India head had visited our campus, and he
Mhm.
had so basically he took a class of a junior. So when they were presenting the solutions, case solutions, he said, पढ़ाकू हो तुम लोग बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है you're using 4Ps, you're using answer matrix and everything, but real life doesn't work like that. You cannot
Okay.
hypothetically make a consumer person and make everything fit to it. Real life is vastly different. So that is where your B school sort of come into play. So, and there are many roles coming to B schools, the case competitions. There are many roles. For example, Mahindra's GMC program, General Management Career Program, HUL's General Management Program, Flipkart, Air India, GSK. This year, all of them have hired only from B school case competitions. So that's a very
Okay.
good avenue to sort of get into there.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. That's very enlightening. Yeah. Nice. So, just asking, like, for the students of our country, like in India, so which is like moving on to become a, like, global stage, we are talking of like a superpower, almost a superpower, and so on. So,
Right.
how important is MBA, and why should, let's put it like this, why should graduates be thinking of an MBA in the first place?
Right. So we are currently a juggernaut in economics, and
Yeah,
the recent tussle with Canada has just gone on to
right.
prove that, like, yeah, that's a testament to that. So, as I already said, there are many roles. For example, there are branding roles. There are roles in talent acquisition. There are roles in investment banking. There are roles in general management roles, which are only open to MBA graduates. There are certain key learnings which and the holistic approach towards looking at problems, the multidimensional approach to problem solving, that is something that is inculcated only in a B school program. There's
Okay.
very other few other programs which can give you that sort of multidimensional thinking abilities. Moreover, uh, the industry demands are not really general anymore, in my personal opinion. So they are
Right.
getting more and more into niche requirements. So
Hmm.
although you do require an MBA, that is still sort of like an ID check at the airport. That is
I
not your
see.
boarding pass. That is just your ID check that will get you in the airport. But to board the
Hmm.
plane, you need the boarding pass, and that is a specific skill set. So if you are trying
Right.
to go into branding, you need to understand everything of branding. You need to understand consumer psychology. You need to understand marketing communication. You need to understand media planning. Great, you have branded brilliantly, but how do you communicate that to your end consumer? Do you want to go via the OTT models? Do you want to go via out of home billboards and everything? Do you want to go
Right.
via digital channels? So these niche skill set you have to develop. That is always there. But overall, MBA does push you there. So it's very much
Right.
relevant even now.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about a few years back. So when you were in your preparation mode for CAT. So can you tell us something about how you prepared for CAT? Most of us, our audience would be like CAT takers. I mean, either this year or next year. So this would really help them. Are they they're very interested in this part of, especially this part of the talk that we're having. So how was your
Right,
prep and how did you
right,
prepare for the GWPI as well?
right. So I remember the date when we first began our classes. It was 2021, 17 June, if I'm not very wrong.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I had exactly 5 months to CAT. I
Right.
knew where I stood. I had taken one mock. I knew where I stood. I knew what needed to be done. I didn't know how to do it. So I reached out to you, and the rest is history. So, uh, being an engineer, personally, I can always share my own story.
Right.
So being an engineer, I knew I was good in quants, and coming from the background that I did prior to that, I knew VARC would be relatively easier for me. It wouldn't be a nightmare. But what turned out to be a nightmare is something I had never done before. That is LRDI. DI was
Yeah.
still sort of intuitive because again it was data and numbers and graphs, and that was something I was very accustomed with. But LR and especially blood relations and seating arrangements and the fact that you have to do two seating arrangements for circular tables, that is something that really that was mind-boggling. First of all,
Yeah, and
I
all
remember
those
crying.
complicated
Yeah,
DI combined with LR questions that are
right,
the CAT norm nowadays. So
absolutely,
that makes things a
absolutely,
little more like, yeah,
right. So there is so when you if for the cricket fans out there, because cricket is really relevant in India, when I used to watch the Ashes, the commentator used to say well left on critical balls. If you leave the ball, they used to say well left. So in my opinion, cat or zat are those sort of papers where you have to leave the right questions, and that is the trick. You have to
yeah,
leave the tricky
exactly.
questions. You have to understand, and for that you need, obviously, as you have always said, as everyone says, you need a lot of practice. So the more mocks you give, you read the first few words and you know okay, this is a time consuming question. It's a trick question. You should not do it. So knowing
Right.
your strengths is very important. So you get to solve about, let's say, 8 to 10 questions as soon as possible and
Exactly.
correctly, obviously with high accuracy. And then comes the 4 to 5 questions which are harder, but you can do it. And the other remaining 4 to 5 questions you don't touch at all to avoid the
Right.
negative marks. So that is the strategy I went with, and yeah, it
So if
worked
I
out.
if I put it in other words, so basically you are saying that you need to know your concepts in and out so that you can actually match that. Okay, this type of a question, then this is the type of solution or the approach that is to be taken. So
Right.
once you practice a lot, you know that okay, you are not really good with this sort of an approach, and that takes up a lot of time, maybe, or you usually have a bad accuracy, and that you will come to learn only with a lot of practice and taking regular mock tests.
Right,
That's roughly your
right,
suggestion, right? So take a mock
right,
basically as much as possible. That is very important.
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
To
So do
use
you
to
think?
use a very
Yeah.
popular
Yes.
right,
Yes.
sorry, to
Yeah. Yeah.
use a very popular MBA lingo, you have to benchmark yourself and work on
Exactly.
improvements.
Yes. Right. So do you really think that students who are from an engineering background have an undue advantage with the quant section, or I don't, or do you think that it's not really that? I mean, people have a false sense of security when it comes to the quant section if they're in engineering background, and they try and tend to neglect that. What do you think?
Right. So again, a personal example. When I appeared for the CAT, the the real exam, not the mocks. The, During my mocks, I was very good with quants. So I went with full confidence that quants, I'll do good. I'll answer 15. And the first three questions in my set were the most difficult questions of the entire paper, all three sets combined.
Okay.
And I got stuck for, I think, 10 to 12 minutes on those three questions. It was a big hit to my ego that how can I not solve it? I'm an engineer. I'm good at quants. This is my strong point. I'd already messed up my LR before that. So I was upset about it. And then quants became a nightmare, which was one of my strongest points. So yes, there is some advantage because engineers work with numbers day in, day out. There is some
Exactly.
advantage because, yeah, so there is some advantage because parts of algebra, we have a higher understanding of algebra compared to someone who hasn't studied
True. True.
uh, engineering or math, let's say. But that doesn't, so I also have friends who are from economics backgrounds or from sociology background who have gone on to crack CAT with the 99.8 percentile plus. So in quant specifically. So it's not really, and also the CAT paper is not skewed towards engineers. It focuses on basic concepts and there are trick questions on it more than really, let's say, high level differentiation that is never coming in CAT, or a high
Exactly.
level polynomial that is not coming in CAT.
Exactly. It's basically the 10th standard. So though you might have
Absolutely.
some advantage in certain topics, like as you said, quadratic equations, functions, you might have some advantage, maybe in probability in combinatorics. But then when you look at arithmetic and geometry and stuff, then it balances out, right? So I mean,
Right,
everyone knows arithmetic, so
right.
anyone can do it. All right. How
Especially
about
speed, time,
GW?
distance, and everything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Those things. Yeah. So how about the GWPI? So after your CAT, then how did you prepare for the GWPI?
For the GWPI, what I would suggest is that, see, PI is basically a personal interview wherein you are the product and you have to sell yourself. You have to explain in those 15 to 30 minutes to your panel of interviewers, two or three, however, how many they may
Yeah.
be, that I am the best fit for your B school. Today, in my group of shortlisted candidates, I'm the best fit. You will not find someone better than me to put in a seat in your classroom. And how do you do
Exactly.
that? So you have your personal stories for the PI, and you say it's all about picking the right flowers and picking the right words to garland them up. So
True.
you put your story in such a way, if you can't market yourself, how can you market your company's products? Sort of
Exactly.
like that.
So
And
the
for the
first thing
GW,
is,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, sorry. So the first thing is important is to know yourself. So you should know
absolutely.
yourself. I mean,
Right.
I'm surprised at how people are not even aware of what they themselves are. So they can't
Right, right,
say two lines about their own achievements, their own, I mean, about themselves, they are not able to say. So the
right,
first thing is to know yourself in and out. If you don't know that, then how can you sell yourself?
right.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
And
sure.
also, like as Indians, I think we always fail at expressing ourselves when it comes to ourselves. We're never
Exactly.
taught to do that from a young age. Compare that to a, let's say, American. They'll always speak volumes about themselves. And
Right.
also, we need to introspect a lot more. These are my skill sets. This is what I'm good at. These are my weaknesses. So basic introspection and SWOT analysis on yourself, so that you're not bluffing that my weakness is I'm a perfectionist. That is an answer which will get you
Obviously.
kicked out of the door. Right. And
Right.
coming to the GW part, so there are usually GDs or writing ability tests. Most of them are on current affairs. GDs can be abstract, like let's say the color orange, or creativity versus deadlines. So these are actual GDs I have faced. And
Okay.
or the what is always directly on very current affairs. So the point is, after CAT, you will have about 2 months, 2.5 months until all the interviews get done. In those 2 months, you also have your NMAT, you also have your ZAT, you also have your SNAP, and any other exam that you're taking.
Right. Right.
So you cannot really catch up on 2 years or a year of news and content in those
Obviously.
2 months while balancing the other exams and also preparing for your PA. So what you
Exactly.
need to do is regularly take bits and pieces of information and maybe spend those 2 months to sort of put them together. Okay, so on this date, Hamas attacked Israel. On this date, Netanyahu said this. On this date, America said this. How do they all pan out together? What does it mean?
Right.
And so not just current affairs. Where people go wrong is they focus on the news as the objective truth. That is not it.
True.
So there's
True.
always your understanding. So what I take away from this. So in my time, the Russia-Ukraine war was the topic, the hot topic. And all the questions were, what are your opinions on it? What do you think
Exactly.
that India stand? Yeah. So it's never this has happened. You're not a
It's
news
not a
reporter.
collection of facts,
Exactly,
basically.
exactly. So you're not a news reporter. You're not a news presenter. You're
Exactly.
yeah,
It's not a history test in short. I mean,
absolutely.
exactly. Exactly. All right. So any special tips that you want to share? We are almost to the
Uh,
end of the talk that we had. So
right,
any special tips for our audience?
right. So once you get into a B school, your life is going to be extremely fast paced. So much so that maybe when you promise your parents that I'm going to call for the ones who are coming for the first time to a hostel, first time stepping out of their comfort zone of their homes, you probably promise to your parents that I'll call you twice, thrice. Make that I'll call you once in 2, 3 days. That is the reality. That is, yeah. You don't get so the sleeplessness is glorified to a great extent, but it is not glorified by us who are actually sleepless. It's glorified by the ones outside. कि हमें भी करना है, and then once you're in it, you're like हम नहीं हमें सोना है. So my point is that it'll be very fast and starting from CAT, one hurdle after the other. So after I was done with my CAT, during my PI, I realized that CAT was the easy part. PI is difficult. And I got into a B school and everyone else had equal percentiles and some of them had really
Exactly.
good points in the class. I was like, मैं तो last आने वाला हूँ, मुझे पढ़ाई करना है. And then the placement seasons comes and then the club committees come. So everywhere it's one hurdle after the other. And when you look back, everything just falls into its place. So do not take CAT like it's the end of the world. If you have an 88 percentile, it's not the end of the world. If you have a 99 percentile, it is also not the end of your brilliant career. It is just the
Right.
start. And focus on two very different things. One is what do you want from the B school professionally, as in your academics, as in your placements, as in the alumni network that you have. And secondly,
Exactly.
what do you want out of those 2 years, the temporal investment that you make for 2 years? What sort of personal growth are you looking at? If you are someone who has never stepped on a stage, do so. There are n number of B school competitions. There are n number of internal events. If you're someone who has never taken the mic, do so. Someone who has never run on the tracks, wear your first runner shoes, run. So
Yeah. Come
explore
out of your
yourself.
comfort zone, basically.
Absolutely,
Challenge yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. That's all. Because even if
Okay.
you have a 10% growth, that is a significant delta in the 2 years. That's all.
Obviously. Obviously. Okay. So it was a wonderful. I mean, it was wonderful talking with you. Thanks for taking our
Absolutely
time.
wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'll definitely call you again. So when we have our GDPI sessions and all,
Right,
maybe we'll have more interactions with our students as well.
right.
So wish you all the best. Thank you.
Always happy to be there. Thank you so much.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.